ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm your host, Belmont, and we've got another development in the Nintendo Pocket Pair lawsuit. This from Gamerant. I saw this article yesterday, and I hadn't had a chance to read it. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I'm not sure. Not today. I'm just not getting around to it. Haven't even read the article yet, so let's jump right in. From Gamerant, Pocket Pair presents strong defense against Nintendo's Palworld lawsuit. Pocket Pair responds to Power. That's highlights. I don't care about that. Pocket Pair has presented a comprehensive multi-argument defense against Nintendo's Palworld lawsuit. The Palworld developers' response to Nintendo's patent complaint references a variety of games ranging from Octopath Traveler to Far Cry 5. In September 2024, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company sued Pocket Pair in Japan, alleging that Palworld infringes on several of their jointly held patents. I'm gonna stop. They didn't file these patents until after Palworld came out. So that's my biggest problem with this lawsuit is they're trying to sue them for something that wasn't established to have been a rule. Like you can't break a rule that isn't a rule, right? That should be a pretty fair concept in my mind. But let's continue. The Palworld developer publicly vowed to fight the lawsuit, but has shared no details on how it intends to do so. The first concrete information on the company's defense strategy has now emerged via GamesFray, who obtained Pocket Pair's initial response to the lawsuit from the Tokyo District Court. The company targeted each of the three patents from the patent family at the center of the Palworld complaint, with both invalidity and non infringement arguments. Palworld's prior art defense against patent. There's the patent number. I'm not going to read it. It's a long string of numbers. In regards to claims relating to patent 191, as I'll call it, JP 191, which describes a system for capturing creatures and releasing creatures into battle, Pocket Pair argued that none of its elements were new at the time of its late 2021 filing. The company used its prior game, Craftopia, to illustrate this claim, arguing that while it doesn't do everything Nintendo's patents describe, it could easily be combined with features from other existing games to arrive at the same result. The company also cited Titanfall 2, Far Cry 5, Tomb Raider, and Octopath Traveler among prior titles whose systems overlap with patent JP 191. And which could be combined with Craftopia to end up with Palworld's creature capture system. Do they mean the new Tomb Raider or the original Tomb Raider? Palworld's prior art defense against patents JP 117 and JP 390. I'm just abbreviating these for the sake of this video. You can see them on screen if you're looking. I'll put them in the description for anyone that is curious, but it's a long string. Pocket Pair made a similar claim in response to patent JP117, which describes a system for aiming a capture item and calculating creatures' capture chances. Here, the company's invalidity argument starts with Dark Souls 3 mod Pocket Souls, which allows players to capture enemies and use them against one another. Pocket Pair said that combining its ideas with Craftopia, the Fallout 4 mod Nukamon, Monster Super League, and Nexomon would have been enough to arrive at mechanics similar to those in Palworld. The final part of the developer's prior art defense is aimed at patent JP390, which describes a system for switching writable objects such as pals or Pokemon on the fly. Here, Pocket Pair points to Arc as an obvious case of prior art that doesn't have even need to be combined with anything else to render Nintendo's patent invalid. Pocket Pair also made multiple non infringement arguments against each of the three patents in the lawsuit. These will only come into play if the company fails to successfully argue invalidity. The non infringement arguments were submitted to the Tokyo District Court on January 31st, 2025, whereas the invalidity defense followed on February 21st. Well, there's their defense. They're citing basically other games that have already done this. And if you're not suing everyone for infringement, you can't sue You can't sue anyone, right? It's all or none. It's basically the action potential of lawsuits. Either everyone is infringing upon this thing or no one is. You can't just say, well, this one company that we don't like because they happen to be successful is infringing upon us. We don't care about everyone else. Now, if Nintendo backtracks or decides that they're going to start slapping uh, a bunch of lawsuits down, could change things. But I don't know if Nintendo has the well, they have the wherewithal. I don't know if they have the motivation or the case to do this. The my biggest thing is the riding one, switching with riding things on the fly. Pokemon is far, far away from the first game that lets you switch your mount or ride a mount to traverse the environment. Far from it. Some games, that's the entire purpose of the game, is to ride things around. Those games exist. I don't know how they could get away with this. I think that there's no standing on that whatsoever. The capture thing, they might have more standing on just because Palworld uses capture spheres or capture orbs. I don't remember exactly what they're called, which is basically a Pokeball. When you look at it, you're like, okay, this is obviously meant to mimic and represent a Pokeball, and it's done in the same kind of fashion. That's the only point that they have standing on, really. The whole what's the first patent argument here? What was the battling creatures thing? Yeah, you're gonna have to deal with Dragon Quest if you're gonna deal with battling creatures in that way. You're gonna have to deal with, I mean, all kinds of things. Did Pokemon do it first in the fashion that they're talking about? Maybe. I would have to do a lot of research to find out if there was anything else. And then I still want to say no, because when did Final Fantasy VI come out? Final Fantasy VI original release date was April 2nd, 1994. Okay, so it did come out after Pokemon, because Pokemon's from 1993, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll just triple check that real quick. Why is it all caps? 1996. Oh, so no, then they've got nothing on that because there was a character, I believe his name is Gaul, that can battle creatures and mimic their abilities. Thus, he kind of becomes the creature. So, in essence, you could say that Final Fantasy VI lets you capture a creature and then use it to fight another creature. You can also, uh, was it Carbuncle that made creatures fight? No, Carbuncle cast Reflect on everyone. There's a summon in Final Fantasy VI that makes the creatures confused and they fight each other. You could also make the argument in that you're basically capturing them in a sense and making them fight each other. There's a lot of games out there that probably did what Pokemon did beforehand. What made Pokemon the juggernaut that it was or is it still a juggernaut? I don't even know. We'll say um was the fact that it was incentivized to trade using the Game Boy trading cable or communication cable to trade between games. But people in Japan are kind of antisocial, so instead of going out and trading with their friends, they literally just went out, bought 2 copies of the game and 2 Game Boys. Thus, Pokemon saved the Game Boy from failure because everyone went out and bought 2 Game Boys when Pokemon came out, and then everyone bought a blue and a green, which was the original releases in Japan. And then they bought the blue and the red here in the States, and it just instant Game Boy success, right? Tetris had carried Game Boy as far as it could, but Pokemon made Game Boy and Nintendo a handheld juggernaut. It was the reason to own handheld consoles. It is the reason that their consoles are technically still handheld. They just hybridized their handheld and their home consoles into one console. And Pokemon's the reason for that because it told them, "Hey, people want to be able to play games anywhere and they want to love they want to have the option to just take it with them and go." And that's was the original. Pokemon did it. But were they the first to ever do everything that they're talking about? No, because if they were, they would have filed the patents long, long time ago because video games and holding patents are a tried and true tradition. The reason I've said this before, the reason the D-pad looked the way it did on every console, they had their own version, is because Nintendo owned the original D-pad patent, and until that patent expired, nobody could copy it. That's why Xbox had that like circular satellite dish. That's why PlayStation has these separate D-pads where they're like technically each individual buttons on the surface, but they're connected underneath. That's why Sega had the dish, and it's just you know I think it's the Nemesis system by WB is currently owned as a patent, and that's why nobody else is using it, which sucks because WB needs to get off their asses and demand that every game that comes out of the WB studios that's even remotely RPG based needs to use the Nemesis system. It's one of the best systems ever made in a video game as far as AI is concerned, and they are wasting it. They are wasting their patents. The yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't think they have any leg to stand on with these patent lawsuits, especially because they didn't update the patents until after Palworld came out. Palworld came out, became an instant success, was the talk of the town for about 3 to 4 weeks, sold thousands and thousands of copies, made tons of money for the company, and then all of a sudden Nintendo decided that they needed to update their patents to deal with this infringement. Come on now. It's just not a good look for you, Nintendo. And with your you shoot people in the foot with the Switch, and a lot of people getting mad about that. Nintendo's been making a lot of bad moves lately. Now, I don't agree with people about their stance on the Switch. You're looking at a console that can be taken with you anywhere. It should be kind of expensive, especially if it's going to do the stuff they boast it can do. And as far as video game prices are concerned, most of these people have become complacent with game prices being stagnant for nearly 3 decades. And it's obvious to me they weren't around during the end of the Super Nintendo and the beginning of the Nintendo 64 era when games would sometimes hit $90. Like, what was Earthbound? Earthbound was, I believe, was $70, I think, on the original Nintendo, and if you adjust that for inflation, what is that, like 140, $150 now? That's insane. But people would still pay that price if they got Earthbound in a modern version today because of how good that game is, right? If a game is good enough, it can get away with costing that much. I mean, hell, I think I paid $80 for Monster Hunter Wilds and it was worth it. I've had more than $80 worth of fun playing that game. I'm still playing it. Not as much as I probably should because I'm playing a lot of other games, trying to catch up my back catalog. Atelier came out. I've been playing a lot of Yumiya, and Marvel Rivals is eating a lot of my time because Marvel Rivals is about as fun as Overwatch used to be. So, but what do we have here? Another Nintendo lawsuit against Palworld might be close, experts say. Is this a long article? No, we're gonna go ahead and dive into this. We're doing a full Nintendo Power World expose right now. Another Nintendo lawsuit against Power World might be close, experts say. Nintendo has been granted yet another anti-Power World patent in the United States. Let me stop. When was this one? April 5th. So this is a couple weeks ago. Its third such IP to date. According to one patent expert, this turn of events indicates that the company may be close to filing another lawsuit against Palworld. The Pokemon company. Okay, so this is a rumor. That's what it sounds like. This isn't found. Hasn't been verified yet. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen this article yet. The Pokemon Company and Nintendo originally sued Palworld developer Pocketpair in September 2024. The lawsuit filed in the Tokyo District Court alleges that Palworld infringes on multiple patents jointly held by the plaintiffs. Since then, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have moved to secure some of the disputed patents in the US, signaling that the case could eventually go global. I don't know if it'll work that way. Usually, U.S. courts will go, we defer to the original court cases or the original things. So if you don't win in Japan, you likely won't win in U.S. The latest results of the efforts materialized in mid March 2025 when the U.S. Patents Off PTO granted Nintendo and TPC another seemingly anti Power World patent. What is the USPTO? It's the United States Patents. Do we not have what it is? Something to do with patents. There we go. Um, Games Trade reports. Identified by US patent number. Jesus, we got a lot of patents over here. 12,246,255. The patent covers a system for seamlessly switching between different modes of transportation. Specifically, it outlines a method that allows player character to alternate between riding a ground-based object and an airborne one. So this is the same as I think the lawsuit or the patent JP117, as I was calling it. Nintendo is close to obtaining a fourth anti-power. See, now, can you really call it a fourth? I guess it is a fourth lawsuit because this is a separate lawsuit in a separate court. Nintendo already had a similar one back in December. However, it ended up amending its application following an interview with a USPTO examiner, revised several claims while adding one more. The amended application now seems likely to be granted in the near future, which would leave Nintendo and the Pokemon Company with four patents that they could potentially use against Pocket Pair in the US. Does it like, if you, I guess because they've amended this one, but would this one not override the one from Japan that's basically the similar version that they tried to file earlier? I'm not a patent attorney. I'm not any kind of attorney. I've only studied law. I studied it in college. I never pursued the career. It was more of a self hobby. I just wanted to know more about the law. So I took law classes just to get a better understanding of the American legal system because it's fucked. Um, Nintendo may be preparing another patent complaint against Palworld. This is the same thing. Games for a patent analyst Florian Mueller. That's a pretty fucking cool name, Florian Mueller. Characterized this turn of events as a strong indicator that Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are preparing another patent complaint against Palworld. Instead of Japan, this next lawsuit would seemingly be filed in the U.S. Mueller suspects that the timing of the complaint hinges on the approval of the recently amended patent number 18/652 assuming the case is indeed going global, the U.S. lawsuit could be filed sometime between late spring and summer 2025. Pocket Pair previously said it intends to fight the Power World lawsuit, but was addressing the now realistic possibility of having to wage legal battles on multiple fronts in both Japan and the U.S. In prior statements, the game ran Mueller labeled Nintendo's Power World lawsuit as a clear case of bullying. Yes. As of early April 2025, the longtime patent analyst believes there's still a chance for the Pokemon Company and Nintendo to drop the idea of going after Pocket Pair in the US. However, war appears more likely than peace right now, Mueller concludes. I agree. Nintendo is on the war path against this one specific company. I can understand it given that, the similarities between Power World and Pokemon, but it just feels too little too late to me. You should have filed these lawsuits. You should have had these patents already filed if you felt that they were an integral system for the Pokemon game. The fact that you didn't have them finalized and completed when you've had, oh, I don't know, 30 years to do so tells me that you didn't think that they were integral to the gameplay or you didn't think that they were a system unique enough to patent. That's what it tells me. That's what I get out of this. I really hope Nintendo loses this one because this is basically opening the floodgates for people to retroactively sue other companies for seemingly bullshit reasons. But there you go. That's our double whammy of Nintendo Power World lawsuit updates. That's all I have for this report. This has been your host, Belmont, signing out.